Caitlin Clark isn't holding back anymore. She's the #1 draft pick, the headline stealer, the ratings phenomenon. The player who filled arenas across the country and pulled millions of new eyes toward a league that had been starving for mainstream attention. And now, she's being sidelined by her own team. Unbelievable? Exactly. Yet somehow this is real. If you're here for the unfiltered version of events, stay tuned. And if you're waiting for the next dramatic twist, you'll definitely want to stick around. The shock is real. Only a few months ago, Clark was celebrated as a once-in-a-generation talent. A lightning bolt of energy for a league that has spent decades fighting for visibility and respect. She shattered records before she even settled into Indiana. And now, she's benched. Physically cleared. Mentally locked in. Practically begging to play. But the Fever refused to let her step onto the floor. What kind of bizarre corporate plotline is this? Make no mistake, Clark is not the type of player to sit willingly. She thrives under pressure. She embraces the spotlight, the responsibility of carrying a team even when the scoreboard says they're 20 points behind. This is someone who's endured double teams, online hate, and media storms as fierce as Midwest tornadoes. When she says she's ready, believe her. And when she publicly pleads with the front office for a chance to play, that's not just passion, that's desperation. Imagine being a superstar told no by people who have never taken an elbow to the ribs or tried to breathe life back into a franchise possession by possession. And let's be real, Clark has already revived this team. Before her arrival, the Fever weren't just struggling, they were invisible. Now, the team is in national headlines. Not for winning, but because they've dared to sideline the one reason half the country even knows they exist. You couldn't script chaos like this. And the timing? Brutal. We're talking about the playoff push. Every possession matters. Every point could decide a season. Yet they choose to bench their star. Why? The official excuse, long-term health concerns. But here's the kicker. Clark has already been cleared. Not by Twitter. Not by fans living on wishful thinking, by doctors. Medical experts said she was good to go. She herself said she was ready. And still, the team said no. Let's call this what it is. Control. This isn't about health, strategy, or longevity. It's about a franchise trying to dictate the story, the pace, the player. But they seem to have forgotten one crucial fact. Caitlin Clark is the story. You don't silence a cultural movement. You don't cover a wildfire and expect it to burn out quietly. And you definitely don't tell the woman who's transformed your league that her preparation and passion aren't enough. Imagine telling Serena not to serve, Simone not to flip, or Tiger not to swing. That's the level we're dealing with. And the Tiger Woods comparisons? Already here. Because Clark isn't just a remarkable athlete. She's an event. She's water cooler conversation. She's TV ratings gold. She's the reason people bring homemade signs to games and cry when she drains a three from the parking lot. So when you bench her, it's more than a questionable decision. It's betrayal. And she knows it. Clark didn't drag her coaches on live TV or blast the organization publicly. But the way her eyes welled up at that press conference, her voice trembling as she insisted she was ready, that said it all. And fans heard her, loudly. Social media erupted. Talk shows lit up. Everyone had an opinion, from retired legends to casual newcomers. And almost none of them defended the Fever. Because fans rally around players who give everything, who stay humble while shattering records, who show up night after night despite the punishment, the criticism, and the spotlight. Clark is that player. And her team had the nerve to bench her under the guise of protecting her. Fans aren't buying it. Because this isn't rest. This is management trying to rein in the runaway train already speeding toward a new era. But Clark isn't demanding chaos. She's demanding autonomy. She's saying, I'm healthy. I'm ready. Let me do what I was born to do. Instead, she's met with silence. Meanwhile, the Fever's playoff hopes crumble. Ratings plummet. Fan morale nosedives. Because without Clark, this isn't the team anyone tuned in to see. You see it in the empty seats. You feel it in the drained energy. And you'll definitely see it again when contract negotiations come around. Because if this is how Indiana treats their most valuable player, what message does that send? Not just to Clark, but to every rising star choosing where to land. Come here and we'll ignore your readiness, stifle your momentum, and bury your influence. Convincing pitch, right? Here's the irony. Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She isn't skipping practices or dodging drills. She's asking to compete, to push her team further than they've gone in years. But the front office is playing a different game. And spoiler, it's not the one that wins. They think they're protecting an investment, but what they're actually doing is breaking trust. You can't preach about believing in your superstar, and then reduce her to a museum piece on the bench. You can't claim to want to grow the league and then silence the very player who made it relevant. It's tone-deaf, short-sighted, insulting. And yet, Clark remains composed. She thanks the fans. She backs her teammates. She handles herself like the professional she is, even as the people around her fumble loyalty, optics, and common sense. That's leadership. That's why she's the future of this league, even if her own franchise doesn't realize it. But here's what they forgot. Greatness doesn't wait. It doesn't pause politely for an organization to catch up. It moves forward. It adapts. And if you don't get on board, you get left behind. So while the Fever play their long game, they'd better remember, Clark is the game. And this chapter, of betrayal, mismanagement, and wasted momentum, will not be forgotten. Not by the fans. Not by the media. And certainly not by Clark herself. Because do you really think she'll let this be the defining storyline? Not a chance. She's already planning her return. She's already imagining the roar of the crowd when she steps back on the hardwood, not as a benched star, but as the centerpiece. And when that moment comes, it's going to hit differently. Because it won't just be about basketball. It'll be about redemption. About taking back control. About reminding everyone, from the front office to the front row, who really runs this league. So if you're with us, if you believe in player power and poetic comebacks, stick around. Because this story, it's only just beginning. Caitlin Clark didn't posture. She didn't throw a tantrum. She begged. Openly. She pleaded not just behind closed doors, but in front of cameras and microphones. She made it crystal clear, I want to play. And when the Fever still said no, it stopped being about strategy. It stopped being about rest. It became about disrespect. You don't disrespect the very woman who built your relevance. Not without consequences. Because let's not pretend, Caitlin is the reason this team has broken into the national spotlight for the first time in years. She didn't just improve their record, she redefined their identity. Fans in states without a WNBA franchise suddenly tuned in just to watch her. And yet here she is, suited up, cleared, capable, left sitting on the bench with a not today. The optics. A disaster. The front office tried spinning it. We're protecting our investment. This is about longevity. She'll thank us later. Really? Ask yourself this. When was the last time a male athlete at the top of his game was benched for his own good, against his will during the biggest stretch of the season? Go ahead, think about it. I'll wait. It doesn't happen. Because their agency, their fire, their judgment is respected. When LeBron says he's playing, no one dares argue. So why is Clark's word suddenly not enough? Why is her readiness up for debate? Why is her competitive fire being treated like a problem instead of a weapon? This is the double standard. The quiet bias still embedded in women's sports. The belief that these athletes must be protected from themselves, that their passion must be softened, packaged, contained. But let's be real, Clark knows her body. She's been training at an elite level for years. She's survived pressures that would crush others. She's absorbed fouls harder than anyone in the league, taken hits that never got called, walked into arenas full of boos, and dropped 30 points like it was routine. So when she says she's ready, let her play. Instead, the franchise cut her legs out right as the season reached its peak. And they did it under the banner of long-term planning. But here's the truth about long-term planning in sports. It means nothing if you alienate the very person who made you relevant. The Fever haven't been title contenders in years. They haven't been in this kind of spotlight in forever. Clark handed them energy, revenue, headlines, and this is their repayment. A seat on the bench and a condescending explanation. And Clark's response? Painful. Restrained. She could have detonated everything. She could have gone scorched earth, and no one would have blamed her. But instead, she swallowed the lump in her throat, forced composure, and gave a diplomatic answer about being a team player and trusting the process. But anyone watching saw it. The fire in her eyes. The clenched jaw. The quiet fury that doesn't fade. It grows. She isn't just hurt. She's motivated. And that's a nightmare for the Fever. Because now they've got a player who isn't only out to win, she's out to prove. She's out to remind the league, the media, and her own organization that you don't bench greatness and expect to walk away unscathed. And fans. They're done being polite. Screenshots of her stats, her sold-out games, her jersey sales, her record-breaking ratings are flooding social feeds with one blunt question. Why are you silencing the only reason we're watching? Fans are canceling subscriptions. Skipping games. Flooding timelines. Writing open letters. Because this has moved beyond basketball. It's about loyalty. Justice. Rewarding the women who give everything to elevate a league that spent decades clawing for respect. And it's about what happens when you tell the most valuable player in the room, "Not now, sweetheart." The league is watching. Other players are watching. Agents are watching. Because how Indiana handles Clark now doesn't just matter for today. It matters for every future trade, every free agent, every high school phenom wondering where to play. Do you want to join a franchise that benches its biggest star for strategy? Or do you want to play somewhere that fights beside you, trusts you, and supports you? That question will hang over Indiana for years. And when this season ends, when executives sit down to dissect what went wrong, the answer won't be injuries or bad luck. It'll be this moment when they chose control over collaboration, when they looked at a rising legend and thought, let's rein her in. Wrong move. Because greatness isn't something you restrain. It's something you ride with. And Caitlin Clark? She's far from finished. Next season she'll return stronger, smarter, hungrier. And when she steps back on that court, no longer a rookie, but a seasoned warrior who knows who's in her corner and who isn't, the league better brace itself. Because this version of Clark won't just be chasing points. She'll be playing for respect. Caitlin Clark was never built for passivity. She's not wired to sit back while decisions about her body, her career, and her legacy get made by executives in glass offices who've never played a single pro minute. Yet that's exactly what's happening. And it's maddening. Because the very qualities that made Clark a star, her fire, her relentless drive, her refusal to back down, are now being twisted into liabilities. Instead of being seen as her superpower, her competitiveness is being treated as something that must be managed. Let's zoom out. This isn't just about one benched athlete. It's about a bigger issue that has shadowed women's sports for decades. Who gets to decide what's best for a player, and who gets to decide what greatness should look like? There's still an outdated mindset lingering around women's sports. Athletes are expected to smile, nod, and defer to authority. Be grateful, not demanding. Be cooperative, not outspoken. If you push too hard, you're difficult. If you ask for more minutes, you're selfish. If you speak your truth, you're emotional. Meanwhile, if a male player storms into a press conference demanding to play, he's called a competitor, a beast, a leader. But when Clark does it, suddenly the whispers start. Is she being too pushy? Let's get serious. Clark isn't too pushy. She's pushing forward. And if she doesn't, who will? She knows exactly what she means to this league. She knows the weight of what she's done for her team, her fan base, and this moment in history. She took a franchise drowning in irrelevance and turned it into must-watch TV. She dragged the WNBA from background chatter to headline news. She didn't just raise the bar, she pulled the entire league up to it. And for all of that, she's rewarded by being benched. It reeks of betrayal. It says, We love you when you're making us money, but not enough to actually listen to you. And perhaps the most telling part? The silence from the Fever. No clear explanation. No accountability. Just vague cliches about the long term. As if fans are too naive to see what's really going on. But fans aren't naive. They watched Clark pour everything into her rookie season. They saw her play through exhaustion, double teams, cheap fouls, and relentless media storms, all while keeping her composure at a level even veterans envy. They saw her boost ticket sales, drive merch revenue, and carry the league's momentum on her back. Now, they're watching her be treated like a liability. Like her voice doesn't matter. And that's the Fever's fatal mistake. Because Caitlin Clark is not just another rookie. She isn't a role player you can swap in and out without consequence. She is the franchise. More than that, she is the future. So when you bench her, you're not just making a personnel move. You're making a statement. Whether intentional or not, that statement is, we don't trust our star. We don't value her judgment. We'd rather control the narrative than build something real. The irony is brutal. The Fever could have had it all. They could have embraced this historic rookie season, leaned on her leadership, and let her drag them into the playoffs. Even if they didn't win it all, the experience alone would have been invaluable. Instead, they chose to pull her back. To muzzle the movement she created. Maybe they thought fans would understand. Maybe they assumed the media would move on. Maybe they believed Clark would simply smile, nod for the cameras, and wait her turn. But here's the thing. You can't put Caitlin Clark back on the shelf. You can't unring this bell. She'll remember. Next time she's a free agent, she'll remember. Next time she's asked to publicly endorse the organization, she'll remember. Next time a teammate needs to choose whether to trust the franchise or trust her, she'll remember. Because this isn't just about playing time. It's about trust. And once that's broken, it's nearly impossible to get back. Now let's talk about another layer, the emotional toll. Clark isn't a media-manufactured persona. She isn't a cardboard cutout with a logo and a rehearsed smile. She's human. She feels this deeply. You saw it when her voice cracked in interviews. You saw it in the subtle shake of her head when asked if she understood the team's decision. You saw it in the forced smile as she spoke about supporting the team, when everyone knew what she wanted was to play. Because she's a hooper. Competing is what she was born to do. And forcing her to sit there, watching her team squander games while she has to pretend it's all part of the bigger plan? That's not just frustrating. That's cruel. And fans feel it too. That's why they're shouting. They don't just want to see her play because she's electric. They want to see her play because she cares. Because she fights. Because she shows, in real time, what happens when passion and talent collide. To watch that passion smothered under a vague strategy is maddening. And it sends a dangerous message. It tells young athletes, especially young girls, that their voices only matter when convenient. That they should be great, but not too great. Passionate, but not too passionate. Ready, but only when given permission. Caitlin Clark didn't get this far by asking for permission. And now, she doesn't need to. Because the damage is already done. The narrative has shifted. The Fever can push PR releases, happy Instagram posts, or polished soundbites all they want, but they can't erase the truth. Clark was ready. They said no. Now the only question left is this. What is Caitlin Clark going to do about it? Because if history tells us anything, she won't sulk. She won't throw fits. She'll put in the work. She'll grind. She'll tuck away every excuse they gave her, every dismissive maybe next game, every moment they told her to wait, and she'll remember. And when the time comes, she's going to unleash all of it. The receipts are piling up. The energy is shifting. Clark is about to turn this insult into the greatest revenge arc women's basketball has ever seen. Picture it. She steps onto national TV, drops 40 points, waves off defenders, and buries a logo 3 to silence the crowd. When that moment arrives, we'll all remember where it started, with an organization that underestimated a woman who knows her worth. Underestimating her? That's the dumbest mistake they could make. Do you think she'll forget the sting of being sidelined while her team fumbled without her? Do you think she'll forget being told to trust the process while staring at empty seats and watching morale sink? Do you think she'll forgive the very people she made relevant for failing to believe in her when it counted? Look at her eyes now. That quiet, sharp resolve. The simmering determination that doesn't scream for headlines but waits patiently, planning, calculating, ready to strike when the timing is perfect. Because here's the truth. You can only hold back greatness for so long before it bursts free. And let's be honest, the Fever fumbled this badly. They were handed the keys to a Ferrari and parked it in the garage at rush hour. And now they're shocked the crowd outside has dispersed, that the noise they built all season is slipping away. But Clark, she's not noise. She's momentum. She's culture. She's lightning in a bottle, the kind of gift most franchises only dream about. And when she finally comes back, when she steps onto that hardwood and unleashes everything they tried to suppress, it won't just be about scoring buckets. It'll be a statement. I was always ready. You just weren't ready for me. Oh, that day is coming. The Fever may have slammed the pause button, but Clark is only waiting to press play. And when she does, the entire league won't just feel it, they'll be forced to reckon with it. Because at this point, she's not playing just for minutes. She's playing for respect. For control. For every athlete who's ever been told to sit down when they knew they were ready to stand tall. Here's the reminder. You can't bench a legacy. And Caitlin Clark's? It's already bigger than any box they try to stuff her into. So if you've been shouting at your screen along with us, you know what to do. Join the conversation. Should she stay and dominate where she is, or walk into free agency with a stack of receipts? Because this isn't just a comeback story anymore. It's a reckoning. Clark's not the type to forget. She's not going to let this fade into the background. Every shrug from management, every flimsy excuse, every time she was told, not today, it's fuel. And she's going to use it. Because Clark isn't just a star on the court. She's a storm waiting to hit. When she returns next season, stronger, sharper, hungrier, she won't just be chasing wins. She'll be demanding respect. And make no mistake, this isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about every decision made in boardrooms by people who've never stepped on the hardwood. It's about how women athletes are treated when their passion is seen as too much. It's about who gets to decide when greatness is allowed to shine. Clark didn't fight her way into the spotlight just to dim her own light. She didn't break records, sell out arenas, and carry a league on her back just to let her fire be controlled. And she definitely won't let the people who owe their relevance to her dictate her future. This is about autonomy, about rewriting the rules, about telling every young athlete, especially every young girl, that you don't need to wait for permission to be great. Because here's the bottom line. You can sideline Clark, but you can't silence her. When she returns to the floor, it won't just be to play. It'll be to prove. To show everyone, her teammates, her critics, her fans, her front office, that greatness doesn't wait. Greatness doesn't ask. Greatness takes the court. And when that moment comes, when she drops a dagger three or storms through defenders with ice in her veins, it won't just be a bucket. It'll be a reckoning. A reminder that Caitlin Clark was always ready. That she never needed saving. That the league's future was sitting there, waiting, while the franchise fumbled. So, if you believe in player power, if you believe in poetic comebacks, if you believe that Clark is about to flip this entire story on its head, then stay with us. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should she stay and take the crown anyway, or walk into free agency with all the leverage in the world? Either way, one thing's clear. This isn't just a comeback story. It's the beginning of a movement. And when Clark presses play again, the entire league is going to feel it.